Hello, everybody. Mike Donahue here, and you are on the playlist Groomed.Help from Groomed.Connect. We started this a couple weeks ago to try to help people process, some of the things that happened to them, as far as being involved in a cult. I know for some people it's really hard to kind of admit that, right? I mean, it's because of the Christianity aspect of it. It's hard to, you think of culture, think, Moonies and people selling flowers at the airport and, weird people trying to get you to shave your head and drink things. We weren't involved in anything like that. I mean, there was some weird stuff, but it wasn't like that. So it's hard to like wrap your head around the fact that, okay, we were in a cult. But the more I, research this stuff and look and see what a cult is, I was definitely involved in a cult. And I was a perpetrator of that. I helped push that dogma that we were pushing. I helped push that out. And so, as I've reflected and looked back at, my process and figuring out, you know, what to do with that. Like, what do you do with that? I want to go back to Boston. And those of you that don't know this may be a little bit of a shock to you, but I was involved in a sex trafficking ring in Boston when I was in 8th grade. I was coerced into sexual activity with men, and I was an 8th grade boy. And I'm not gay, so it wasn't a sexual attraction to me. So when I got out of all of that, and I was stationed at Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, and I started going to church at Bellevue Assembly of God, I began to unpack what happened to me. Why did I do that? Why was I so vulnerable? Why did I let myself get involved with these guys? And I started realizing that there was a hungry need inside of me, right? There was this, I could look at what I did and feel bad about it and go, you made a mistake. That was stupid. But why did I do it? Right? Why was I that vulnerable? And I had to unpack that and look and see what was going on inside of me that made me vulnerable to these guys. Obviously, it wasn't a sexual attraction. It was an emotional attraction. There was a vacuum there. There was something that made me vulnerable to these guys. They knew it. They capitalized on it. They used their grooming techniques and their love bombing and all the stuff that I talked about in my book. But I'm just giving you like the inside scoop with me. What I had to do is unpack that and go, what was going on inside of me that made me vulnerable to these guys? And so I want to fast forward and go, okay, now that we're coming out of a cult, there's a lot of guilt, right, for people. There's a lot of like, well, why was I that stupid? Why did I let her manipulate me? Why did I let these people that, are working for her, impact me so heavily, right? And, you know, that hungry need to be loved and to be, part of a community is part of that. I mean, it's what you have to look at and go, okay, why did I do those things? And to me, it comes down to the difference between coercion and conviction. Because now that I'm past all that, I'm out of the cult, I'm realizing that I do have convictions. I do love God, right? But when I was part of that community, I was doing some things that the social norms in that community rewarded me for. That's not conviction. That's coercion, right? Be part of the club, you have to do these things, right? So I look at some of the stuff I even, perpetrated back in the day when I was a youth pastor under Jeannie, some of the things that we said, you shouldn't do as a Christian, which is don't, go to movies, R-rated movies, don't secular music. We had all these rules, dating rules, boundaries that weren't practiced by some of the leaders, but we pushed these rules that basically said these are convictions you need to have, right? That's how they framed it, right? These are convictions you need to have, to be a good Christian. These are the convictions you need to have to get along with everybody, to be able to, to be part of this club, to be part of that. So is that really conviction, or is that I need to do these things so I'm welcomed, I'm loved, I'm cared about, I'm part of it, I go up the ranks? It's like image management, right? And I watched a lot of that, like with the Christian school kids up in Rockford. They, there was this undercurrent of kids that, yeah, they knew the rules, they knew what to do, they knew, how to make the upper echelons, people like me, Jeannie, happy, but underneath they lived a different life. And then we would call them hypocrites, or they would get ostracized. Once they were found out, then there was like, oh, see, they're not really living, up to par or whatever. And so there was this weird, spiritual bullying that went on. And I think that's really scary, you know. And I think, as you unpack it, you get out of it, and you're like, okay, what just happened to me? You know, are these all coercion? Did I do these things just to fit in? Did I do these things to make everybody happy with me and go up the ranks? For me, it was going up the ranks, right? What was that? And now that I've had some time to pull away from it, I've realized that there are some convictions that are there now. I'm not part of a club anymore. I don't go to church, right? And when I do, I go to a good church. The church, I mean, Jeff Baker and Kim Baker, they wouldn't dare try to coerce me because they know, right? Because they know me. I know them really well. And we've had these conversations. And I don't go just right now. I don't go. I may go again. I don't know. But basically, as I'm away from it, I'm not part of a club anymore. But I have a lot of convictions. I have a lot of morals and values that are important to me that aren't in front of everybody. They're not on display. They're not for me to project onto a group of people. This is what Mike Donahue is, or it's just me private living my life, right? And that feels good. That feels like I have a real relationship with God. Like I'm really just talking to him about these things, and I'm not on display. I'm not being coerced by a social norm to do certain behaviors to fit in. And I think that's what I want to encourage you with, is for you to unpack what was coercion and what was conviction. And I want more conviction. I want God to talk to me. I want to be able to live a healthy life, right? And that's that comes through conviction, not coercion. That comes through your relationship with God being separate and you understanding what he wants for you, aligning yourself with the will of God for your life, not the will of a church, not the will of a set of rules, but the will of God. And that's private for everybody. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you what you should be convicted about, right? I don't judge people on their convictions. I don't, but your convictions are your convictions, and you've got to figure that out, right? I'm not gonna, um, I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life, right? The Bible even says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, with a sense of, you know, awe in God. Like, okay, God, it's me and you. Like, I want you to be happy. I don't care if these people are happy with me. I want you to be happy with me. And the byproduct of you being happy with me, most likely, is people will be okay with me too, because I'm going to be living a life that's honoring to you, which is probably going to bless others. And so get out of that game of feeling guilty about, why you did these things. And I think sometimes when you start to unpack it, you start to see how manipulated you were, you can get angry, right? I mean, you can get pretty angry. Like, I can't believe I did this. But don't look at the people who manipulated you. I mean, that's a separate thing. We can talk about this some other time. Look at you. Look inside of you and go, what was going on inside of me that made me that vulnerable? Did I need a community that bad that I was willing to cross these lines and do these things? Look inside of you, not with guilt and shame, but with conviction. Like, God, show me where I was missing you. Show me where I didn't listen to you. I listened to these leaders that were just really trying to manipulate me and get something out of me. What were you trying to say to me? Right? That's where I'm at right now in my life. Just trying to really deal with that part of my life. Is, what I do want my life to be aligned with God, and I do want it to honor him and honor my family and honor my own life, right? And I'm just going to say this. One of the biggest convictions for me is, and I realized this wasn't coerced into me, this was a thing that God really was speaking into me, was my value, right? Is that my value doesn't depend on any of these things. It's really comes down to his love for me. And it's not negotiable. I don't have to do anything for it. I don't have to jump through hoops, right? There's an intrinsic value inside of me that I don't have to chase. And the earmark of a cult is to get you to chase it, right? You're not going to be valuable until you do these things. That's chasing value, right? I'm not chasing value anymore. I know I'm valuable. I'm walking in the value that I have. That's my conviction. And that is my battle every single day, is to go, okay, I need to realize I'm valuable. I'm not chasing it. I have to walk in it. Big difference between chasing it and walking in it, right? So that's my encouragement to you, is to fight for your own value and let your convictions come out of that, not out of chasing your value. You know, if you have to have a bunch of convictions to be valuable, that's not convictions. Again, that's coercion. That's society. You know, whatever society you're in, whatever culture you're in, is is bullying you or coercing you into these things. Don't do that. Be yourself. Be true to yourself, and lay yourself before God and go, okay, I'm valuable. This is who I am, and I'm going to walk in that and let you talk to me. And so I hope this helped. I'm kind of rambling right now, but I hope it helped. And we're going to be bringing some people on that's going to, break down some of these things and help us walk through some of this stuff. Leave comments. Let me know what you thought of this. And don't be coerced, be convicted. All right. See you later.